My parents had a rough marriage, frequently dragging me into their arguments. They always made it seem like I was the leading cause of all their problems. They had terrible spending habits and always indulged above their needs and limits. My grandfather, who'd been my rock, became estranged from my parents due to their money-asking behaviour. I spent most weekends at his house where I felt safe and loved, far from the chaos at home. When I turned 18, I immediately moved out of my parents' house and stayed with my grandfather. A month ago, my grandfather passed away. He left me a significant inheritance, money that would change my life. I only received the amount last week. He had always told me to be responsible with money and never let it control me, something I took to heart after witnessing my parents' financial struggles and irresponsible decisions. After his death, my parents approached me about the inheritance. They were drowning in debt, having taken out loans and credit cards to cover living expenses and buy stuff after my dad lost his job during the global issue. My mom works part-time. Their financial issues had escalated and they were now on the verge of foreclosure. They saw my inheritance as a way out. When they asked for my help, I felt a surge of anger. These were the same parents who had belittled me, often making me feel like a burden. I'd always been the one to sacrifice my own needs for their sake, and now they wanted to exploit me. After giving it not so much thought, I decided to refuse their request for financial help. When I told them, their reaction was explosive. They screamed at me, hurling insults and accusations. They claimed I was selfish and ungrateful for all the sacrifices they made for me. My dad's anger quickly escalated to violence. He slammed his fist against the wall, fracturing his own wrist. My mom joined in, yelling and threatening to cut me out of their lives completely and generally trashing my house. I called the police. When they arrived, my parents were still in a rage, shouting at me, throwing things around and blaming me for their problems. The officers tried to calm them down, but my dad continued to berate me, insisting that I was ruining the family. They ultimately decided to take my parents aside to talk to them separately while I stayed in another room. They came out and asked me whether I wanted to press charges. As a last act of gratitude, I said no and asked them to wait outside while I talked with them. After the police went outside, my parents were quiet, but the tension in the house was palpable. I told them basically to never contact me again, and if I ever saw them near my house, I'd have them arrested. I realized then that I'd taken a stand that would forever change our relationship. I'd chosen to prioritize my future and well-being over their demands, even if it meant losing them entirely. They told me the money had gone to my head, I'd face karma, and they hoped I'd suffer immensely. Even though I don't love my parents, I feel guilty and uncertain. I have a chance to build a better life, but it comes at the cost of my conscience and familial relationship. Am I the idiot for disowning my parents after inheriting a large sum and refusing to help them out? Not the idiot. Let them rot wherever they are. They don't deserve you and the inheritance. Proud of you for standing up. You do not owe them anything, particularly since your granddad left this to you, not them. They continue to be ridiculous and try to guilt you into submission. You did nothing to create their situation, and you are not responsible for it now. Close the door and live your life. Exactly. OP is benefiting from karma already, as they are. Those poisonous people are getting what they deserve. Their parting shot just goes to show that OP is a far better person than they will ever be, and OP should be happy in their life without them. I agree, and let's be honest, they'd have run through that inheritance in no time, leaving themselves in the same stew they're in now. It's time for them to learn. It's wild how your parents can't see their own hypocrisy, calling you selfish while being so demanding. Your grandfather clearly had your best interests at heart, and he'd want you to stay true to his lessons. Don't feel guilty, you're just breaking the cycle. And I'm really sorry for your loss. It sounds like he was a fantastic supporter of you, OP. A bit of background. My sister Sarah and her 2 kids, Jake, a young teen male, and Mia, a tween female, recently moved in with us after Sarah went through a rough divorce. She's been staying with us for about 6 months now, and we tried to be as accommodating as possible. My wife Laura and I have 1 son, Ethan, tween male. At first everything was fine and the kids got along okay. After the last few months, however, Jake and Mia have been making Ethan's life miserable. They've been teasing him constantly, calling him names and even going through his things when we're not around. It's been awful for Ethan because he's more introverted and quieter. He's come to us multiple times upset about things they've said or done, and I've tried addressing it with Sarah. Her response has been dismissive, saying, "It's just normal sibling stuff, they'll grow out of it." The tipping point came last week when Ethan told me that Jake had taken his school project, something he'd spent days working on, and ruined it by drawing all over it. Ethan was in tears. When I confronted Jake, he laughed it off like it was a joke. Sarah didn't seem to think it was a big deal and said Ethan was being too sensitive. Laura was furious but tried to stay calm. I finally had enough and told Sarah that if she couldn't keep her kids in check, I wouldn't keep doing favours like driving them to school every day. I've been taking all the kids to school since Sarah moved in because her car broke down and she hasn't been able to fix it. It's about a 20-minute detour for me and I was happy to do it at first, but after all this I told her it was too much and she needed to figure it out on her own. Now Sarah is upset, saying I'm punishing her and her kids over something small and it's not fair for me to leave her stranded. She even went as far as to say I was being petty and holding a grudge against the kids. She thinks I'm overreacting and should just let it go for family harmony. My wife is 100% on my side and thinks Sarah's kids have been out of line for months. But now Sarah's giving me the cold shoulder and telling other family members I'm being unreasonable. So, am I the idiot for refusing to drive them to school anymore? You are the idiot because you're imposing a penalty that doesn't do anything and doesn't mean anything. Refusing to drive her kids while they still live in the house is going to amp up hostilities. You need to tell Sarah that she has 1 week to get out. Get your priorities right and grow a backbone. This is what I'm wondering. Your poor kid. They've been bullying your kid for months. At what point will you take a stand for your kid? When Jake finally starts physically hurting him? Is that when it will be enough? When Jake decides to try more? Why the heck is your sister more important than your kid? Also, get Ethan a therapist. Now. You've housed his bullies for months. It's going to take a long time for him to recover from this. Yeah, why are they still living with you? Your sister allowed her son to destroy your child's school project and thought you were overreacting when you disapproved of that. Both of their behaviour was completely disrespectful and inappropriate. This family is just taking from you and they're making your son's life miserable. You have more of an obligation to your son than to your sister. Why are you allowing your own child to be bullied in his own home? Sounds to me like they need to find somewhere else to live. Have a spine, Dad. I'm a single mom with a preschool daughter, Anna. Anna and I live with my mom. We both work and Anna goes to daycare full-time. Daycare would be about half my income, so I get a subsidy that covers $1,400 out of her $2,000 tuition. The only condition of the subsidy is that she actually has to show up. If she misses too many days, I lose the subsidy. I go to work at 7:30 and daycare opens at 8, so my mom would be the one to take Anna to daycare. Anna's main teacher is a 21-year-old female. When I talk to her, she's always very animated and energetic. She's great with the kids. Anna always comes home saying the teacher brought stickers, she brought juice, she brought bubbles, did face painting, etc. And she always has fun crafts that she did with her teacher. This teacher is her favourite person in the world right now, and Anna often runs away from my mom to jump on this teacher in the mornings and hides when my mom picks her up because she doesn't want to leave this teacher. My mom started to get jealous that Anna liked the teacher better than her, so she started keeping her home from daycare on her days off. When she only had 1 or 2 easy clients, she cleans houses. I found out Anna missed 5 days over the past 3 weeks. I asked my mom about it and she told me she wanted Anna to spend more time with her family than with her teachers. I told my mom Anna needed to be in daycare unless she was sick or I would lose the subsidy. She was arguing that if Anna needs to be in daycare, she should be in one with more family values and not some rich white girl trying to save the poor kids. The teacher is a girl from a well-off family marrying into a well-off family, and the daycare isn't the most well-off neighbourhood. She has bins full of clothes for the kids, gives everyone a water bottle with their name on it, has a much nicer classroom than the other teachers, and drives a car worth more than my mom and I combined could make in a year. She's setting up a field trip to the local airport so her fiancé can talk to the kids about flying planes and they can look at his jet. I told her I wouldn't. This is the best daycare that takes this subsidy and I won't be moving her just because she's jealous. She insisted that Anna be with her family or be in a more family-based daycare, so I got her a babysitter. I drop her off at my neighbour's at 7:30 when I leave for work, and she drops Anna off at 8:15 on her way to take her kids to school. She only charges me $10 a day. I don't love the breakfast that she gives Anna, but I know she's going to daycare and I won't lose the subsidy. Now my mom is angry that I'm keeping Anna away from her. Am I the idiot for sending Anna to a babysitter in the mornings because my mom wasn't taking Anna to daycare? Not the idiot. You sound like a responsible parent and you did a good job solving a problem here. Congrats on getting your daughter a slot in an excellent daycare or preschool and doing what you must to keep the subsidy that pays for it. Your mom is being totally unreasonable, and it sounds like you already know that. Would she be interfering with your daughter's education and keeping her home from school randomly if she was in 3rd grade? What about 11th grade? Sigh. Look, your mom's arguments are completely irrelevant. If she has a problem with the daycare, she should have brought all of this up before making unilateral decisions that would affect your financial independence. She isn't actually concerned, she was just justifying overstepping your boundaries. Your mother is too egotistical. She cares more for her own feelings and needs than yours and your daughter. It sounds like jealousy over the wealth being flaunted. And I kinda get it, the teacher sounds like she has nothing but the best intentions, but by trying to give the kid the world, she's kind of flaunting her wealth. It doesn't take much to make people feel inadequate as providers when someone else can give their grandkids stuff they could never have dreamed of, but the mom definitely isn't channeling it in a healthy direction. I, 41 female, have 2 children, Layla, nearly adult female, and Jacob, teen male. I want to clarify that I love them both equally and have always tried to make sure that none of my children felt like I had a favourite child. On the other hand, my husband, 43, very clearly prefers our son. He was very happy to have a daughter and a really great dad to her, but it's clear that he gets along with Jacob more, mainly because they're both males and enjoy the same things. They both love football and baseball and often go see a match together, spend the weekend playing or talk about it together, etc. This became more important when Jacob got older and started getting into sports more. I get that it's easier for my husband to talk to our son about things they both love, but it's been making me sad to see our daughter excluded from their conversations or activities together. My husband doesn't do a lot of things with Layla. They sometimes watch movies together, but most of the time it's either my husband and Jacob doing something, just the 2 of them, or the 4 of us together. For that reason, I recently decided to start doing things with my daughter, just the 2 of us. These past 2 or 3 months we've gone to the movies, to the mall, had a girls' night, went to a bowling alley and many more things. I can see that it makes my daughter happy, so I thought it was a great thing. My husband never complained about it, mainly because we mostly did this when the males were doing something together. A week ago there was an open-air projection of Tangled, which has been Layla's favourite movie since she was young, and I planned on going for weeks. The problem is that my husband found out 4 days prior that he had to leave for work that same night. He asked me to stay home and said that we could just watch another movie together, the 3 of us. I said no because that night was important to my daughter and me. Our son also said he was fine staying home alone and would play video games with his friends. My husband didn't say anything, but I could tell it bothered him. When he came back from his work trip, he got really angry at me and told me he didn't believe we actually went and excluded Jacob, and that I was playing favourites because I decided to have a night with only Layla. I told him about how he always spends time with Jacob and asked if he couldn't tell how Layla was hurt by that. He said that I was being ridiculous and that it wasn't his fault Layla didn't share any of his interests. I told him that it was his role as a parent to try to connect with his child, and he yelled at me, telling him not to give him parenting lessons when I was a bad mother. He's barely been talking to me since then and is very cold and dry. I get his point because I always promised myself never to treat my children differently, but at the same time, seeing how happy it made my daughter, I'm not sure if I made the wrong choice. Not the idiot. Your husband is a hypocrite. He yells at you and calls you a bad mother for excluding your son, but he's a bad father. He regularly excludes his daughter and never once thought he should connect with her. He is a bad father. She has no relationship with him and never will because he doesn't value her. He doesn't see her as a priority because she's not a male. She won't invite him to anything in her adult life because they have no relationship. This man had the nerve to call you a bad parent when all you're trying to do is make up for his shortcomings as a parent? Oh, the audacity. He's projecting his favoritism onto you. He expected you to center your son because he was out of town and couldn't. Fathers bond with all of their children, not just the ones that share common interests. I feel so bad for Layla. He even blames the daughter for not sharing his interests. But maybe if he took her to sports leagues and games as a kid, she'd be interested. But no, he checked out because she's a girl and I'm a male. What a loser. He's excluding his daughter all the time. My closest friend since childhood, Evan, married Valerie 5 years ago. Honestly, I never liked her as she's extremely rude and usually refuses to speak and just stares. This issue is bad enough she doesn't have a relationship with her own father because she won't speak to his wife or her half-sisters. To be clear, she absolutely can speak. She has a PhD, a job and friends. She really enjoys not speaking though. Evan has said it's even like her passion in life. Valerie rarely speaks to me, but it's fine. I personally have no desire to talk to her, but I have maintained a close friendship with Evan. We went on group trips and her not speaking really didn't bother me. But it does bother my fiancée Heather. Heather feels disrespected as she's tried to get to know Valerie, but she's been ignored. Heather came to me and told me how hurtful it was and that if she didn't speak, she didn't want her at our wedding. I talked to Evan, who said Heather was being a child. He said Valerie isn't our wind-up doll and he respects her for having full autonomy. I said I could no longer expose Heather to this hurtful behaviour and said Valerie couldn't come to our wedding. He dropped out the wedding and we ended our friendship. However, we still see each other in group settings. Recently, Valerie approached me and asked about the real reason behind the rift. I told her and she seemed horrified. She thought it was really sweet he defended her, but she didn't want him to lose a friendship, so she said she would try to talk to Heather. Valerie approached Heather and made the world's most awkward small talk while making a face like she was disgusted. Evan found out why she was doing it and told her to stop. He told her she didn't owe anyone a thing and he would never ask her to do that for him. They left and he sent me an angry text that I shouldn't have told her because it was manipulative. He wouldn't want to be friends anymore anyway because we are creepy people for wanting to talk to Valerie so badly when she doesn't want to talk. Not the idiot. Valerie asked and you answered her honestly. You can't force her to talk, but you also don't have to force yourself to be around someone you don't enjoy being around. How could you be an idiot for that? Maybe Evan didn't like self-reflection about his life choices. I've married someone unpleasant who detracts from the lives of most people she comes into contact with and who is gradually ostracizing all of my friends. Isn't an enjoyable realization. Much easier to blame other people. Do you think Evan is that self-aware? I don't. The dude is just doubling down. He's an idiot who will soon find that his only friends are men whose wives pass the "does my crap-nosed wife approve" test. We wish him all the luck and happiness that he deserves.